Hey Village, so today's video, I'm gonna be answering your guys' questions. And specifically, I was asking for foster related questions, but no surprise, you guys added in some, and one question that I got a lot. And yes, I will answer that question. But let me start with some easier questions first. So this question is from Instagram. It says, if kids have daily medications, do they have open access to them or are they stored in a lockbox? So the simple answer here is all medications are locked. And yes, this can be a pain in the butt, especially when you have older kids and they're looking to just take a vitamin or an antidepressant or something like that. Medicines that wouldn't really run the risk of being abused, they still get to be locked up. Next question, am I still fostering? Yes, I still have an active license. It has been amended due to some life events. I recently mentioned that a former foster teen who had aged out came back to stay with me, went through the full amendment process since they were over 18, and they stayed for a month, went through that, all the paperwork, took care of everything, took a lot of time, took a lot of driving to and from places to get things completed, and now they're no longer here. So that's an update for a different video. But yes, I am still fostering. Right now I'm still on a break, just trying to get some pieces in order. I had started a new job and that's taking a lot of my time. And so want to get some things in order before I say yes to a child, even if it would be for an emergency placement. Another Instagram question is, if a plan changed to adoption instead of reunification, what would I do? And this is a great question because I am definitely an advocate and pushing for reunification when it is safe and it makes sense. And I get a lot of hate for this because people assume that because I'm pro reunification that means that I think that reunification should always happen. And no, that's not the case, but I try to be that louder voice because we hear a lot of primary and biological parent kind of bashing and negativity. I try to just kind of balance that and speak to reunification as much as possible. With that being said, I am licensed for adoption as well. It's not my primary goal. I do not say yes to a foster placement hoping to add that child to my family permanently and legally through adoption. However, if that plan were to change and it made sense for the child and for the family, yes, I would be open to it. Definitely not against adoption. It would limit the ability for me to foster in the future because I have limited space, I have limited time. And so if I'm adding a child, I don't know how available I would be for future fostering. Also have an Instagram question. Do I have a story about my tattoo? And I have two prominent ones that are visible. So this is my newest one, but I'll start with this. So this tattoo is my little half sleeve. Took a lot of hours. I want to say collectively 12 hours. I gave the inspiration for like a lacy, it kind of turned out like a steampunk kind of hot air balloon. So the story behind the hot air balloon is Darcy's nursery was hot air balloon themed. And so I just kind of went through this phase where I just loved it. And I wanted to have this like beautiful scene with like water and mountains and trees. But I also wanted it to be kind of like soft and feminine. So added like a lace border up here and then some lace and some of this like dangly stuff. I don't really know. I just love the look of it. So this is like my favorite. This, let me see if this says, and still I rise. I got this in December. These are Darcy and Sawyer's birth flowers. And again, I just wanted it to be like a really soft design and I was itching for a new tattoo. I had been for a while. And this is just like a reminder. Last year I did some significant self-development work. The first half of 2023, you know, I kept reminding myself is that I always land on my feet, and feel free to steal that. It's not just mine, but yeah, just a reminder of like, I always land on my feet. So this is just a reminder of, yes, I will rise. And, you know, pretty famous quote, but yeah, really love this one. I also have a couple of other tattoos. I have a phoenix that is on my side, on my ribs, pretty large. That one I have, it's matching with my sister. I also have one on my hip. I think that's it. I think those are all my tattoos. Here's a question I don't know if I am the best at answering, but it is asking for any bedtime tricks for kids that keep waking up after like the toddler age. So Sawyer just turned 5. He luckily he sleeps through the night. When it comes to bedtime, consistency and routine is key. If a child is still waking up, maybe keep some books and some like relaxing activities for them to, if they do wake up, they can still do something not super active, like they're not doing loud play, they're kind of doing like a calming activity. I have a Amazon like Dot speaker in the kids' rooms, so they listen to ocean sounds at night. That keeps them calm. Something else is some of those projectors on the ceiling, because that way the child can like lay back and just follow, with their eye movement. They might get tired that way. Like I said, I'm not the expert, but hopefully by asking this question, the community, the village can provide you some answers in the comments. So feel free, if you have any tips, drop them in here. This next question is also about reunification and adoption. So it's saying, what's been the hardest to accept or understand about working towards family reunification over adoption? I think it's always been what I expected. I don't know if there's anything like big that I had to shift as far as my mentality, just because my intention going into fostering was to support families in their time of crisis, and it was never adoption. What I can say that I've seen across the board that foster caregivers can struggle with when it comes to reunification over adoption. Number one, like if you're going into fostering with the intention of adoption, I would just be really cautious. Manage your expectations and know that the case plan could change. It could start as adoption and another family member can come into the picture. And I think it's hard for people to, or challenging for people to say, oh, well, this child has been with me for 2 years. Like I'm that constant. All of a sudden another family member comes in and wants to, have permanency with this child and adopt them or do kinship. Regardless of how long that child has stayed with you, family is always going to be the least traumatic permanency for that child. And I say that because there's research on this. And that's not to say that they're gonna live this perfect life without any harm. It doesn't mean that you, as the foster caregivers for those 2 years or more, don't deserve a place to maintain a relationship with that child. But when it comes to like adoption trauma and family trauma, when families are split, there is just this tie to culture. Having those connections with biological family is really important, and it's been proven. So this is something I'm not necessarily an expert on, so do your own research, but also just be open to the idea that regardless of how long that child is with you, family still plays a really key role. Here's another big question from Instagram. One of the things I worry about is the effect on my kids. How do you balance the negatives for them? This is a big question, and one that I'm constantly navigating. And I think regardless of if you're a foster caregiver or not, this is a question for parents. What is the appropriate level of oversight and safety that you can create for your child? And what I'm finding is that the more that Darcy specifically goes to school and goes to camp, she's exposed to things all over that have nothing to do with fostering. I can't protect her from all of those things. When it comes to the kids who come in and out of our home, I never want to sugarcoat, like there is a risk. There's a risk no matter what friend or family member you bring into your home or that you take your child to, and that's life. I think what fostering has opened up for my kids is just a broader view of, what the world can look like and what families can look like. Yes, they are learning lessons that other kids might not. Is this for everybody? Absolutely not. And I may not know the negative implications that fostering is having on my kids until later. I do have cousins who grew up as foster siblings, and I talk to them every once in a while, and they have 4 kids, have very different experiences on what it was like to be a foster family and the implications. I really appreciate this question, and it's one that, again, I never try to ignore that there are implications on my kids, and I am making that choice as their parent. And the number one thing when I say yes to a placement is I'm taking the information that I have and I'm making the best decision I can at that time. And that's really all we can do as humans, as parents, as people. But I will say I don't like to highlight all the negatives because there's just already so much of that being talked about. And also I am just not gonna trauma dump on what my kids have experienced or what the kids in my care have experienced. I do my best to share things more broadly. So no, if there are significant negative impacts on my kids, I might not talk about them because I'm protecting my kids and that's their story to tell. Yes, I share other things and I use my discretion and what I think is best at the time, but I hope that answers your question and gives a little clarity. Here's one from YouTube comments. How do I handle having a teen around with childcare? Do I ask them to watch the kids while I run an errand, or what does that look like? So again, in my state, it's very specific. So if I have a teen in my care, they can go and they can babysit other kids, but they cannot babysit my kids. And that's really to protect the foster teen, the foster child. With that being said, if a child has aged out, that would be a different conversation. And I probably would see if they would be open to being a babysitter for like those small things. That's dependent on the person, that's dependent on the way the family is at that time. It's really important not to parentify a child who's experiencing foster care because that's something that happens a lot. And so you just wanna be really mindful of that. Another YouTube comment is asking about foster-related documentaries, and I'm actually gonna put a link to Laura's TikTok or Instagram reel where she goes into a review of some of those documentaries, and you know, she is just incredible. She is a wealth of knowledge. She's really mindful and intentional about what she puts out on social media as it pertains to foster care. And so I'm gonna let her answer because I am aligned with pretty much all she has to say. And she even says it's not a documentary, but she has the same feelings as I do about the movie Instant Family, which is a controversial take on it. I've talked about it before. I might talk about it again. Maybe I'll do a whole video talking about like different movies, documentaries, etc., and my thoughts on them. Let me know if you want to see that. Let me know if there's value there. Another question is, can I talk more about my preference for fostering females? So I do want to clarify, my preference is fostering females and those who identify in the LGBTQ plus community. I think for this, it's something I'm going to revisit in the future, but for now, it really came from a place of, I feel like I could be a mentor to teen girls, whereas with teen boys, I would want my partner to lead that because I was not a teen boy and I can't relate to some of those things. And so for me, my comfort level and where I feel I can make the most difference is in teen girls. So really that's the primary driver of that preference. But like I said, I think that could change in the future. It hasn't been something I've had to navigate just yet. And last but not least, I will finally answer the question, where is my husband? In so many different ways, you know, are you divorced? Are you co-parenting? Variation of questions. And yes, I will go ahead and answer that now. I am divorced this past year. A lot has changed in my life. It's something I'm not going to openly talk about the specifics just because I share part of my life with all of you. I don't share all of my life with you. And I do appreciate the patience that so many of you have offered where I've been able to post things on Instagram or TikTok or even here that might have been implied, might have come from like more of like an emotional or an empowered stance, but I wasn't really ready to address it. And as things have moved forward and time has passed, I do feel more comfortable just, you know, owning that truth. And to be honest, I'm just tired of being asked the question. So yes, I am divorced. I will have a separate video talking about the implications that has when you're fostering, because it's valid. You know, what happens when you have a current placement and this occurs? What happens to your license? What are some considerations moving forward? So I'm going to talk about that in a separate video. This video has gotten very long, but there's still many other questions that I've received. So I might do a second part, maybe next month. If you have extra questions, feel free to drop them here and I'll capture them for that next video. But thank you again so much for watching, y'all. See you next time.